And I think it does another thing too, where it creates a God that actually thinks some forms of behavior are worse than others.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It creates a hierarchy of the, like you were saying, Molly, it creates a hierarchy of the things God cares about
Right.
that
Exactly.
we do or don't do.
And if there were a hierarchy, like that's not on the top.
That is for sure not
Like
on
I
the
think
top.
there are things that we see expressed in scripture
Yeah.
where God is like pretty clear, and that is
Like homelessness, like
Yes.
caring for the homeless.
and not that he doesn't talk about
like-
sexuality, but that I don't know. That's just
Yeah,
doesn't seem like it's at the
it's
top.
not that it's not there,
Right.
But like if you want to create a hierarchy and you want to do a very basic like
Right.
like survey, like look at the amount of times that the Bible talks about money.
Right.
Like if you want to create a hierarchy
exactly,
based
exactly.
on quantity,
Yep.
like it will undoubtedly come down that the New
Generosity,
Testament in
yeah.
particular talks about money and how we leverage money more so than anything. And in the most wealthy country in the world, there is a sermon a year in a church given on money.
Yes. Yes.
And think about the number that we give on marriage. Sorry, I'll get on a church culture horse. Sorry, this is my bad. So I think that's one thing it tells us about God that is wonky. The second thing that I think it reinforces is that God views men and women through the lens of the fall rather than through the lens of their
Come
redemption.
on.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Come on, G.
So what it does is it God that looks at the fallen state of men and women, like the post Genesis 2 of their separateness, their differentness, their the point where they failed each other most, and says, actually, that's the normative behavior. That's the way that I just need to mitigate it all. And what we know, because Jesus modeled for us, is that is not how God sees men and women. He calls them to newness, resurrection, Christ-likeness, all together for the beauty of the oneness of the church. That what God is building up in the wake of the resurrection of Jesus is a community of people who are all capable, whether slave or free, male and female, capable of embodying the resurrection life of Jesus enabled by God's Spirit. That's what, like, so in that it shows a version of God that just looks like Jesus never happened, which is freaking wild. But like, I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think that that's really important to me to say, because I think what we're all noticing, I mean, obviously we all work in and with emerging adults, young adults, that this is a huge conversation that we have frequently with people. And what we're seeing is they're like, well, that's the God. And so like, if purity culture tells me that that's who God is, like, then I don't want to be part of that God. And like, and I think we all would say unequivocally that God doesn't reflect the God of the Bible. Like that is not a God that we worship. That is not a God that Christians worship. And so you can reject the culture because that version of God is bogus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, G, because I think that is maybe one of the most important things about this is that our image of God is created through this lens, and that people's image of God is created through this lens. And so it actually doesn't just affect their sexuality. It then affects their entire relationship with God, because then they have an image of God that isn't actually who he is. And that's that's just as damaging.
Yes.
Like that is incredibly damaging, because then we have people going out and doing ministry and following Jesus who aren't following Jesus.
Yes.
Like who aren't following the God that is actually portrayed in scripture,
Right.
but are following a culturally created idol
Yes.
that isn't God.
By the church. Which
By
is the
the church.
freaking wildest thing.
Scared me.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like it, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you can stay tuned for all of our content.